Okay, hey, we're gonna hit chapter 9. We're gonna talk about northern industrialization. So, really, the start of um, the modern industrial revolution for the United States is going to start with the War of 1812. The War of 1812 showed the United States that they couldn't rely on imports from Britain to meet their consumer needs, and so as we in trade with Britain for a couple of years, the manufacturing in the North kind of gets a boost to the fact that we start to make our own stuff. We start to make our own textiles. We start to produce our own consumer goods, those types of things. And as we start to see the fact that there's profit to be made in that, the North begins to build factories. Typically, we're going to build factories, at least in the early days, around fast-moving rivers that are going to turn a water wheel. This is before the improvements on the steam engine. And so the North has fast moving rivers that are going to allow us to build uh, power sources to power factories. The South has large, slow moving rivers, deep, slow moving rivers. Think about the rivers in the South, like the Tennessee River or the even the Mississippi. It's not a fast moving river, and so therefore they're not going to industrialize as much. They're going to focus more on agriculture. Okay. Um, the building of factories replaces something called the putting out system. And the putting out system is where someone, a capitalist, a businessman, is going to employ families to work in the piecemeal manufacturing of items. So basically, a farmer would shear his sheep. Let's say we're going to make something out of wool. And so you have, your bulk wool, and then you're going to take that wool to a family, probably that's going to live on a farm, and they're going to farm in the daytime, and then at night they're going to spin that wool into yarn, right? So then a couple weeks later, the capitalist would come back, pick up the yarn, maybe drop off more wool. He would take the new yarn to a weaver or to someone that has a loom, and they would weave that yarn into a textile, a fabric. Then the capitalist would come back a couple of weeks later, pick that up, take it to a family that would cut it to size, and then finally they would take it to probably a family that would sew it together to make the finished product. And each of these steps along the way would slow down um, the manufacturing process and add cost. And it's just time consuming and inefficient, right? And so in the, I don't know, mid 1700s, early 1800s, England really puts a lot of emphasis on industrialization, building factories. And, we send people from all over the world that go to England and try to tour their factories and learn some of their secrets. One of the first main major factories gets built by Francis Cabot Lodge in Boston, and anyways, start to build factories, and when we build factories, we start to purchase large machines, right? And so instead of taking yarn to be instead of taking wool to someone's house for them to spin it for you, you're going to have like a spinning jenny or multi-reel spinner that's going to create fabric for you in the factory. And that machine is too expensive to take to somebody's home, and so now all of a sudden you're not going to take work to someone's home. You're going to employ people to come and work in your factory, right? So by the mid 1800s, there's going to be factories all over the East Coast, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, all those things, right? We're going to make cotton and wool and shoes and leather tanning and all kinds of stuff. You can see that on there. And one of the things that's going to happen is when we get to the end of the class and we get to the Civil War, we're going to see a huge advantage the North has in the fact that they have the ability to make items in factories that they can just outproduce the South because of this industrialization. Workers are going to begin to move to cities, so you're going to start to see the start of urbanization, right? That, of course, is going to peak in the early 1900 or the early 1900s 1900 and really to 1914. And we're going to see there, we're also going to see the beginning of the organization of labor. And so these ideas are going to change over time. Really, that this is kind of a preview to American history too, because we're going to spend in that course we're going to spend a lot of time on urbanization, industrialization, and the unionization of labor. Okay, so all of that's going on, right? What else is going to happen? Well, you're going to see uh, the government has all this land in the south, in the west that they bought from France with the Louisiana Purchase, right? And so they're going to start to sell that land and try to make money off of it, right? So you could buy 640 acres at $2 an acre, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to farm all that or use all that. You could buy it and sell it into smaller quantities. The Northwest Territory, which again is going to be that Michigan, Ohio area, Indiana. You have smaller farms sold for that, and people are going to go fill that area up over time. Right. And so the goal ultimately, just like Jefferson has this idea of the yeoman farmers, we're just trying to settle the land with ordinary farmers, find places for people to live and live their life. And so that's going to work pretty well for a while, except America still hasn't really figured out or hasn't come up with a long-term solution to our money problem. Even today, like America we don't have a huge amount of gold reserves still in the ground or silver in different places, right? And so, like, or compared to other countries, I suppose. And so, one of the things that really kind of drives the American economy is the fiscal policy of our policymakers, right? And so, in the War of 1812, the Bank of America stops issuing hard spice, which is just gold or silver. They take all of our gold and silver and they hide it because they don't want the British to get a hold their hands on it and take our money, our hard money, to England, right? And so they only issue paper money. And so states begin to do the same thing. And states begin to print their own money, and we put too much money into circulation, which causes inflation, right? And so inflation, the easy way to think of it is obviously inflation, the prices rise. But really what you're seeing is not the prices rise, you're seeing the decline in the buying power of money, right? Um, And so, about the same time in 1819, farmers begin to realize, or people begin to realize, hey, if I have a little bit of money, I can buy some land on credit and then I can sell it to people for a profit. The problem with that is, well, all of a sudden, the War of 1812 comes to an end in 1814. The Napoleonic Wars come to an end. And so, Europe stops buying American food. And so crop prices begin to drop. And so farmers that were making money exporting stuff to Europe all of a sudden find themselves in a period where prices are going up and the crop prices are going down. And so farmers are going to be unable to pay back their loans, right? The Bank of the Money America needs hard money to pay back loans to other people that we borrowed during the War of 1812. And so they're like, hey, I'm not going to take loan repayments in the form of paper money. And so we have issues like, state banks can't get money from farmers because farmers can't make any money selling their crops. Excuse me, and businesses start to shut down. And we see this economic panic of 1819, which is really that's not necessarily one of the first economic crises of our country, but it's a major one, right? So to help kickstart the economy back up, the government starts to lower the price of land, trying to make it more affordable for more people to buy it. Now think back, like all these people that are in Philadelphia that are out of work, factory workers, all of a sudden now they can buy 80 acres of land for a dollar 25 an acre. So all of a sudden you're looking at, I don't know what that would work out to, $120. You can get 80 acres of land, which is, I mean, it's a fair amount of money back then, but it's possible, right? And all of a sudden, I'm going to load up and take my family out to these 80 acres, and we're going to be farmers. We have the Relief Act of 1821 that allows people from Ohio to return some of the land that they bought on credit, so they don't lose it all. And by 1823, the panic has gone away. During the same time frame, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, we see a wave of inventions that are going to change the way business works. Probably the most important is going to, the two most important are going to be invented by Eli Whitney. The first one's going to be the cotton gin. Second one's going to be interchangeable parts, right? So the cotton gin is pretty self-explanatory right here, right? The cotton gin, that would taste terrible. Eli Whitney, you're an idiot. No, the cotton gin is basically a series of combs that removes the cotton seeds from the cotton ball, the raw cotton, right? And so before the cotton gin in the late 1700s, the majority of the cotton industry, the majority of your labor was put into the cleaning of cotton, not the harvest of cotton or whatever. And an adult could only really clean about a pound of cotton with an average day's work. And so cotton itself, before the invention of the cotton gin, was not very profitable, right? It's not the preferred fabric of textiles. That's actually going to be wool. And so we have that, right? And so Whitney produces this cotton gin that allows an average person to clean 50 to 100 pounds of cotton in a day, and all of a sudden cotton becomes economically profitable, and it becomes the preferred textile of industry. He also invents machines that would work on standardized machine parts. If you think of like, I don't remember, I know kids today don't play with their Rector sets, but just a bunch of gears that are all the same and they're interchangeable, right? And so if one part breaks, you don't have to build a new custom part or build a new machine. You just replace it with the same thing. And so all of a sudden, you're able to make clocks and guns and all kinds of things a lot cheaper and faster. Okay, other inventions that are going to come about during this time frame. Cyrus McCormick is going to invent the horse-drawn reaper, right? Before this, farmers would cut down their crops with a handheld sickle, like the Grim Reaper. Now all of a sudden you can use a horse-drawn reaper that looks something like this. Um, and harvest much larger areas, right? Farmers can increase their output, which is good for farmers, right? We're going to have more food, but bad for farmers in the fact that it's going to drive down the prices. John Deere is also going to make improvements on the plow, which is the metal plow, which is going to allow for more of the country to be opened up to agriculture. There's the John Deere plow in the green, right? Samuel Morse is going to invent the telegraph that's going to allow for digital communications up and down the train lines. Remember, we talked about the infrastructure of the United States under John Q. Adams, and we're going to build railroads. Well, if you have railroad lines, you got to make sure that a train's not coming west when you're heading east, right? And so we create Samuel Morse creates the telegraph that allows us to communicate over long distances. Roads and canals are going to pop up. 1811, we're going to see the construction of the Cumberland Road, which is going to open up the West through the Cumberland Gap. And that's going to allow for more and more people to move west of the Appalachian Mountains. And The Erie Canal is going to be constructed. We're trying to connect New York City to the Great Lakes. And if we can connect to the Great Lakes, then we can connect to the Ohio River. We connect to the Ohio River. Eventually, we can get to the Mississippi River. And now we've connected the lands west of the Mississippi to New York City, which is America's largest industrial city at that time and even today. It opens in 1840. It's 250 miles long. It's the largest canal in America. By the 1820s, you see steam locomotives begin to compete with horse-drawn locomotives, and you see the birth of trains. By 1850s, trains have overtaken canals by a long shot. It's easier to build a train track than it is to dig a canal, and railroads are going to win that competition, right? The movement of people from spot to spot is going to increase. Because the speed of travel is going to increase drastically. From in 1786, it takes 4 days to get from Providence, Rhode Island to Boston. In 1840, it takes 4 hours. Okay, so we're going to see a new group of people emerge during this time frame. These are going to be the new rich in America. These are going to be wealthy industrialists, the people that are going to invest in railroads and canals and factories, right? And they're going to work together, kind of, yeah, to protect their interests. And you're going to see a new social class of rich people that are going to form social alliances through marriage and through education. The middle classes are going to be your accountants, your factory managers, those types of people. They're going to come about during this time frame, and they're going to create their own set of values. Like the rich are going to, the rich are going to invest their money to make more money. The middle class is going to, kind of take that um, Puritan work ethic and apply it, like cleanliness and discipline and morality and hard work, and education. Like middle class kids aren't necessarily going to go work in the factories, but they're going to go to some sort of post secondary education. Middle class women don't typically work for a wage, and so you're going to see this idea. This is that idea of the husband going out and working and the wife raising the family. And that happens in the middle class, which is relatively small during this time frame. Um, the majority of people are going to be in the working class. They're either going to be wage workers working in new industrial factories, or they're going to be small farmers, right? On the farm, everybody works just like today. Everybody works on the farm. 1700s, everybody's on the farm. Industrial revolution. The industrial revolution is going to lead to a situation in which families are going to have, the adults are going to work in factories, and the children are as soon as they're able to make some kind of money to help support the family, they're going to go to work during that time frame. Okay. Wage workers are typically hostile towards abolition of slavery. Before, well, we're dealing with the late 1700s, early 1800s. If the abolition of slavery, then all of a sudden you have an influx of workers into the workforce, and so wage workers or factory workers are against abolition of slavery, and they're also against immigration because they don't want people coming in and competing for the jobs that they have secured. Now, as we get into the early 1900s or late 1800s, early 1900s, and the American economy begins to lift all the ships, a rising tide lifts all ships, more immigrants come in, and there's less pushback against immigration. There's still plenty, but it's not as severe during that time frame. Okay, so that's going to get us through chapter 9. Hopefully we took something away from that. We'll come back and hit chapter 10, and then I think you guys have a test over 8, 9, and 10 after that. So we'll see you in chapter 10. Bye bye.